There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your host, life and business coach, Marcy Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code that will help you wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. All right, let's jump in. Hello, my beautiful people. I'm here with Deborah. And Deborah, I've actually known for a really long time. You were one of my vendors back when I was doing holiday boutiques and all that stuff. And we've been connected for a while. But tell me what piqued your interest about the accountability code.
Yes. So actually, it started because I've known you for such a long time, and me watching your journey and just seeing all the progress and all the hidden struggles on the back end of things that I really wanted to support you because I knew how big of an opportunity this was for you and just like part of that growth again. And
Oh, thank you.
so then I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's support her. And so I knew that I could trust you in the process of whatever it was that I was going through. Um, I knew I was going through something, so I didn't really know specifically what this program was going to do for me or what it was that I even needed. But it was because I was in a stagnant part of my life that I was like, you know what? It doesn't hurt to give it a shot.
Love that.
Because you've succeeded to wherever you are now, that I was like, okay, whatever she's doing is working.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. It's a different answer than most people. So that just warms my heart a little bit that you also were like, this girl, I'm going to support her. So thank you. Before we dive in, tell the listeners a little bit about you and your stage of life.
yeah, so I am first generation Laotian. So my parents, when they came down here, it was at the end of a Vietnam War, and they went through this whole, refugee camp transition. And so when they got sponsored to come to the US, there was a lot of culture shock. So they started out just not knowing what the customs were in America. But we had a refugee center just out in Ogden that became a big part of the Laotian community. And we all just became family, and everything that we learned about the holidays here, like Easter, Christmas, having Santa there, learning English. Like we would have Sunday classes to learn language. And at that time, my parents got a job and they were working, $4 an hour. They weren't US citizens yet. They got married at some point and then did get their citizenship, worked their way up, bought their home, with cash. And it was just a cool thing to see them do all of that. But things that they had to do to get there was a lot of needing validation to fit into the American lifestyle. So they abolished a lot of how they would have lived in a different country. And by the time they got here, it was like, we've got to work so much harder to be in positions that we're in, because otherwise no one's going to take us serious, or they're not going to see that we belong here too. And so a lot of my upbringing was having these expectations of trying to meet the culture's expectations or what it took to get into a job or education. It was just a lot harder. Like otherwise we would feel like we're just being, we're not accommodated to. People don't understand the culture, the history of what we're having to go through. So growing up, it was, gosh, I want to say it was just cultural acceptance. In other words, trying to be accepted for this culture that we thought was what we had to do. And so that created, as I was growing up, that created a lot of uneasy and uncomfortable feelings. I think for a long time that has just been kind of stuffed, away. And
Did you feel confused, or did you feel obligated, or what was your take on accountability? Like, oh, I have to do what my parents say, or like, I was raised in this country, so maybe I don't have the same sort of obligation or outlook, or yeah, how did that impact you choosing to grow up?
I was very rebellious. I did not agree with what was happening. I did not agree with how I was treated in school. So I reacted very negatively to a lot of people because
Like,
it
so
wasn't
weird. I
okay.
don't believe that. Like, if you guys knew Deborah, she's so kind. She's like, I could never have a problem with you. So it's kind of funny that
I
that's a
think
part of your story.
I think it's creating that zone of I know who I am. But as I got older, I had my kids young, so there was a lot of criticism of, oh, she's 16, she's pregnant, and you know, um, she's wasting her life. She's gonna waste her life and do all these awful things. And yeah, I did. There were crowds and there were moments that, you know, that triggered a lot of trauma and things that I went through. But because of all of that rebelliousness and going against what my parents wanted and their values, um, I started to realize at this stage, keeping accountable, I had to just do what I thought was right. And that meant going to school. At first, it was to convince everybody that, oh, I can do this and I'm going to show you. Because the second that somebody tells me I can't, I'm very actionable about it. It may take me a long time, but it's going to get done.
Yeah.
And so I think I've just held strong that way through my career.
I love that because you basically took us through the first 3 steps of the accountability code. Like reflection, you had all of this information to dissect and say, like, how do I want to take this into my life? And then humility of knowing that you are you and you're going to do what you want because you know it's right inside. And then you took us right into planning of like, no, just so you guys know, like, I'm going to show you that I can do this. Hey listeners, the message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's free. I've recorded my entire audiobook and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcybarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. All right, let's jump back in. So what would you say was your implementing step? What are some of those things that you did on a regular basis that made you who you are today?
I always have allowed myself to experience things like as restricted and disciplined as I can be on setting my goals. I would take the hard way in. I guess not necessarily that I want the hard way out, but once I go head in first, like an Aries ram does, it makes it a lot easier and to appreciate like the result that you get from it. And the result from those challenges, I think, just kind of, it was either you do it or you don't. Like, there's really, if you want to implement something and make it happen, right? That's really your choices.
Yeah, love that. You're like an expert on the accountability code because you just took us into commitment. Like, you do it or you don't do it. So as we were working together, what were some of those commitment items that you're like, these are the black and whites? Like, I'm going to get these done because I know that's what I need. So what are some of those things that maybe you weren't doing before, but the accountability code helped you start doing?
It accelerated my discipline because I feel like after implementing everything, I started to recognize some patterns that caused me to be in a position where I just didn't feel like I'm in a place where I should be because I've worked so hard towards everything, got myself into a career, a very successful career, and then to just make a decision to reverse that. I think I knew I needed to accelerate my commitments to get what I wanted because I allowed so many people to create my identity for me, and I did not like that.
When we started working together, it was a little bit before the program started, and this is what I love. So for you listeners out there, I do a couple of programs a year, and when enrollment opens, it opens months before the program officially starts because if you're ready to go, like, I want you to start. And Deborah was one of those people. So from the time we started working together to the completion of this program and this celebratory retreat, what would you say was kind of like the stepping points to now? Because there's so much that has happened in a short amount of time, but I could not see anybody else taking your story. Like, so paint the picture. Like, where was your mindset when you started? What are some of the things you started doing? And now it's like, tell us where you're at.
Okay, don't get lost.
Okay.
So it started out, I reached out to Marcy and I took advantage of her just a pre-opportunity to like for her to know what my situation was. And at that time it was, I want to start a business, or I want to push my business forward, one that I've sat on for so many years. And after the first call, I don't know how confident I was about that. And then after our second call, it totally changed again. It was like, you know what? No, I am in a very successful career and I'm growing my business, and getting referrals. So I think I just need to focus on where this is going to take me and how I improve my systems. And then I was getting more confident because now I'm like, okay, I'm seeing where all my hard work is coming in. And then the third time around, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck I want.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
and we just talked it out, and we just kept changing the different questions of where do I want my intentions? What are some of the things I want to be accountable for? And it all began where I thought, you know what? I need to be more authentic. So it was creating and establishing that. Let's just focus on what it means to be authentic. What are my personal values, and how do I go through every single day to meet my personal values, and are these even my personal values? And so that became a huge focus. And even throughout the next few weeks, like into the course, I still didn't really know what I wanted, but everything was becoming a lot more clear.
Mhm.
Like I was able to identify how happy was I at work. You can be really good at something and you can have everything work in your favor to come to realize that, you know what, this season's just coming full cycle and
Time for something new.
And so I think that's how that transitioned to the whole even more drastic change that I don't think Marcy even saw coming.
Yeah. So tell us some of those things that were like, okay, this is happening. And she made the choice. And I love your confidence in those changes that you made. Like, it wasn't like, oh, should I do this? Okay, I'll try it. I'm a little scared. It was like, no, I'm clear now. And I know that I've set myself up for success. And this is the next step for me. So I love it. And for listeners, there's so many other people in the group that I'm like, you got to talk to Deborah. Because if other people could do what you do, they would get over that bridge of, okay, now I'm happy. Now I'm listening to those things. So anyway, back to the question. Tell us some of those drastic things that you did that were clear because of your work.
Yeah. So I looked at all of the discussions that we've had and journaling. It really came down to creating your tea table, right? Pros and cons if you do this or if you do that. And I started to recognize where the negative patterns were that I just lost control of and, allowed, again, others to take over. And then I saw the other side of it. It was like, but I really do enjoy all these things, just not in that capacity. And so as I was listing all the pros and cons of what my skills were, what I would like those skills to do, there was just a moment where I was like, oh, this set of information really reflects with what my values are. And I just, slept on it, woke up and made a 360 decision, put in my 2 weeks as a investment advisor. And initially I was just gonna give myself a break to enjoy life, like make up for everything that I didn't take advantage of in the last 2 decades. And then I came back to my senses because benefits are really nice. And I realized, no, I still love helping people in a different capacity. Mm-hmm. I understand now the customer journey as an investment advisor, how I've built relationships with people. That's what helped me become successful and build, that trust. And I realized I could do that on a bigger scale and going back to my marketing roots, and being part of where I can be technical and creative. And so I thought that was the end of it, where I was just going to quit and be done, wash my hands, start over, and never have anything to do with anybody else. So during that time, I decided, okay, that's not real, because I'm not one to sit still. I need something. So I
Mm.
thought, if anything, I'll just create a marketing freelancing business on the side, and I'll just do that, enjoy all these other things. Well, woke up another next morning and said, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm feeling really good and confident about my decision. I don't even feel regretful about what's happening. And I actually went back to the company, proposed a position, and they got back to me about 3 weeks later. It was accepted. And so I ended up getting the role that I wanted.
Yeah.
And then, I got a little bit of both. I got to do my business, freelancing however I want because I've located what my skills are. And then I got the position I wanted because I really enjoy it and realized, if I'm looking at purpose driven or money driven, I'm not money motivated. My passion is I have purposes for everything that I do. And so it was just like everything came full circle. So I went into the program originally to want to build a business and figure out how to make it successful. And the end result was I'm getting to head that route, but also,
You get your cake and eat it too.
yeah.
What I love about this is your desire to be authentic. When you hit that point, it was like, no, you have been this entire time, which was honoring yourself and allowing yourself to shift when the time was right. Another thing I love about your story is that it was a lot of little lessons that became an accumulation of your big important thing that matters a lot to you. And I think a lot of people discount that, or they're like, that can't be the way. Like, it can't be all these little things. Like, I need to know the big thing and I need to know it now. But you were so willing to trust the process and to do the work. You never were like, sorry, I didn't do it. It was like, no, I did this, and here's what I learned, and here's what I found out, and I also did this too. And so there's a lot of power in your example. So thank you for sharing that. What would you feel like, or what would you define as one of your loving kicks in the pants that you felt? And I was like, okay, time.
The feeling, it was surprisingly just relief. Um, it wasn't shocking. Like you would think something as drastic as, hey, I am just gonna, you know, quit my job, change my life, cut my hair,
Yeah. Yeah.
all these things, and just feel relief. That was surprising to me. So the feeling was just, did I just do that? And I feel so good about it.
I love that. The piece
Mhm.
that you talk about. And I love that too, because you're kind of like a different breed. Like, you and me are just speaking the same language, because we don't always need somebody to say, go and do it, go and do it. It's like, no, support me because I'm already doing it, and just help me shift day by day so I stay on the right path. But I mean, I didn't tell you what to do, you were like, no, this is what I need to figure out, and this is what I'm working on, and this is what I'm going to do. So I love that. What would you say is a specific story in the book that listeners should look into or check out?
I would say the brain body connection, because it talks so much about respecting yourself, um, and everything about it, as you go through different things in your life. So, as much as the focus on the accountability code is in the moment of what you're wanting to transition to, I feel like the brain body connection chapter kind of takes you through what your journey was before you realize, have you been respecting yourself, and again, are you reaching or um, having respect about what your personal values are. It's again, it really led to that. Am I being authentic?
I love that. One last thing is, I love your ability to just be chill with all of it. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, what's going on? And there was a few times where you're like, I don't know, and this is coming, and I'm not sure what to do. But your strength came from your assurity of doing the work. And I love that there was a big emphasis on peace, because that's what the accountability code is all about, is becoming so aligned so that follow through is easy and peaceful. And so I just loved that. I loved that I could always get that vibe from you, but I could trust you to do what you needed to do. So
Thank you. Yeah, I did not think that being actionable was a strength of mine till I went through this and I realized I'm a lot more actionable than you know,
Give yourself credit for.
give myself, because every time I met a goal, I never celebrated that. I just continued to raise that expectation. So in my mind, I never met that. So
Yeah. So at the celebratory retreat, how are you having fun?
I am relaxing. I am not like letting anything ruin my chill mode.
Good. Well, I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so
Me
glad that you're a
too.
part of the community because you are an asset and I'm so grateful for you.
Well, thank you. It was a really good program to be part of.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. If you got any value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop me a review or share with a friend what you learned. All right, I'll see you next Wednesday for Your Loving Kick in the Pants.